Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Playbook for Leaders and Entrepreneurs. Today, we have an incredible guest with me, Litsa Smith. She's an experienced mentor and accredited coach who helps business owners and managers go from stuck to unstoppable. With a background in senior roles at major companies like Warner Brothers, Tesco, the Hut Group, and L'Oreal, Litsa now runs her own business called Work with Litsa, where she helps entrepreneurs and leaders find clarity, take action, and build businesses that flow effortlessly. Her approach is practical, no nonsense, and designed to get real results. Thank you so much, Litsa, and it's a genuine pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Sid. What an introduction. I feel like I don't say anything. What an amazing introduction. Thank you. It's brilliant to be here.
Thank you so much, Litsa. So let's start. If you could give us a little more insights into your personal life and business so our listeners can get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. So, as you just said in the intro, I'm a solo business owner is how I would describe myself. Yeah. So I run Work with Litsa, and that's my business. And my whole ethos in that business is helping people in their work to get clarity, overcome obstacles and take action. And in that business, I help business owners who are overwhelmed or ready to scale. And I also help busy operational teams in larger organizations, as a strategic mentor. As you said, I'm an accredited business coach, and that work is all about driving business transformation, and helping to simplify complexity. So yeah, my background includes more than 20 years. I won't say how many, more than 20 years in leadership roles in L'Oreal, where I met you.
Yes.
Yeah, THG, Warner Brothers, Tesco. So that's kind of where I've come from, in mainly supply chain sort of areas, but I've worked in loads of different functions across those big businesses. On the personal side, I'm married to Alex. I live in Altrincham, which is in South Manchester. And when I want to be posh, that's in Cheshire. When I want to be cool, Manchester. So yeah, I live in the Northwest. I have two boys. I have Greek Cypriot roots in my family.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I think we've spoken briefly about before, but yeah, so from a personal perspective, that like Greek Cypriot heritage means quite a lot to me. And I think that's what comes through in some of my values and that sense of unity. You know, my parents are a real inspiration.
Yeah.
My dad came over to this country with nothing.
Oh, wow.
Many years ago. Yeah. And, he started a fish and chip shop. So he was an entrepreneur running his own business. And I've seen those highs and lows, and he instills, the value of education. So it was really that drove me to work hard at school and eventually, gain a place at Oxford to read chemistry. And it was all from those values and probably immigrant mentality.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And I'm so glad we met at L'Oreal as well. And you had interviewed me, if you remember, when I applied for the placement. So it's good. Yeah, to have you here.
I remember really well interviewing you, and you know what, I'm not just saying this because I'm on your podcast. I remember interviewing you, and we had a pool of a few different, grads, I think it was, wasn't it? And you were our number one of all the,
No.
I remember thinking, we've got this guy, he's a definite. And then we had some others that we were thinking about them. So yeah, I remember it really well.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And since your father was a businessman as well, I want to know, like, what key lessons that you took away from his entrepreneurial journey that you applied to your own life?
So I guess some that I would repeat and some that I wouldn't. So for him, working hard for the family was why doing it. That's probably one that I also have taken on. And the fact that it is hard work, when you work for yourself, you can't expect anyone else to do anything for you. You really do have to figure it all out, and you have to be a jack of all trades. Like, he's not just frying fish and chips. He's doing the accountancy. He's managing the HR. He's,
true.
thing. So yeah, that was that was probably just the hard work and the determination. But on the flip side, he worked a lot of hours all the time. So, we didn't see him a lot when we were very young because he was
Yeah.
working. And he had no choice. It was a bit of a different situation to mine, I guess. But that's not what I want for my business. And that's not one of the drivers for my business, to be working all hours. So,
Mm.
too
Yeah.
common.
Oh, interesting. And having a strong work ethic is important in any business and corporate job for sure. And I'm curious to know what inspired you to transition from a successful career at L'Oreal to starting your own mentoring and coaching business.
Yeah. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people who start their own business are often almost forced into it. They hate their job or they get made redundant or something happens which forces the change. I was quite different. I had a successful career. I had good roles. I had a great team, but I was just plodding along and everything was fine. That's the only word I can think of. It was fine. But I think I realized that I wanted some high highs. I wanted to feel that kind of energy, which I wasn't really feeling anymore. I wasn't miserable, particularly energized either. I sort of knew that I wanted more. So yeah, I actually thought, I don't really know what this means. So I got some not business coach, I got some coaching myself. So I worked with an incredible coach, called Catherine Tiddy. And over some time figured out that, there was something else that I could do that did excite me and that was exciting. So yeah, I can talk you through. So what then happened was I thought at the beginning that I was going to be running a business and I called it Unscramble Me at the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
remember, yeah.
At the beginning. And at the beginning, I was helping mums to get organized, managing their time, creating structure. Quite soon I realized that one, I was really bored of repeating the same topics again and again, like it seemed to be the same. And two, I happened to work with a business owner mum.
Okay.
Yeah, it just so happened. And I started helping her with her business that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. I suddenly realized, well, I can help her with business operations. I can help her with strategy. I can help her with problem solving. And that was a bit of just organizing lives here. I got a lot of experience that these guys don't have. And that's when I pivoted, realized I had all this leadership and operations and strategy experience. Did.
Amazing. And every business have different problems, different way to approach it. So it might be exciting to work on other businesses. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I think I realized that actually the experience I'd had was really in that simplifying complexity, creating, driving momentum. And that's what these business owners were struggling with. And that then became something that helped with it. Like you said, it's more interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And I read one of your newsletters, which had your core values as making a difference with authenticity and collaboration and fun. So I want to ask, what does that mean to you in context of your work and working with business owners and managers?
Yeah. So values, it can sound quite fluffy, I think, if you've never worked with values but if your values don't go through everything you do, I've realized this in all the work that I do, then there's a clash. Things don't feel good, things don't work as well. So yeah, my values, as you've done your research, Sid, yeah, make a difference with authenticity, collaboration, and fun. So maybe I'll take them one at a time. So making a difference. Well, I guess think about my business owner clients, for me, most of them haven't started their business just to make money. I don't think I had worked with any single business owner who thought, I want to make a lot of money, I'll start my own business. Most of them are pursuing a passion.
Love that.
Yeah, most of them are. They're pursuing a passion or they want a business that fits around their life rather than the other way around. So for them, in that context, making a business, making a difference to their businesses and their lives, it's helping people build those businesses that work for them. And it just makes me feel amazing to help them build that sustainable difference. That sounds so cheesy, but it
No, it's
really
fulfilling. Yeah.
feeling, yeah, that authenticity. And that's about helping them be authentically them as well.
That
Um,
makes sense.
yeah, and that's in the same with like corporate leaders as well. So, you might have a leader who they need help to become more strategic and confident, but they will do that by being more authentically them, um, by, copying some other leader who doesn't have their same values or strengths. So, um, yeah, it's that idea of helping people get that clarity, but in an authentic way. It's not just a word, is it? It's being really authentic in everything.
Yeah,
So
100%. And we definitely deep dive more on these values as well later in the episode. But I want to know more about your business journey as well. But before that, you recently completed a half marathon as well.
yes, I
How's
did.
that? How's that experience, by the way?
I did. Obviously not. We were talking before we started recording. I now have a broken ankle from a trip to Iceland.
Yeah.
Job. It's a good job that the half marathon was not after this, but I did. I completed a half marathon, and it was yeah, it was scary. It was hard. I'm glad I'm not doing
Mm.
it again. But it was a challenge for me. I was like, I'm not really a big runner. I run a bit, but I'm not a huge
Yeah.
runner. It was more the challenge that I was trying to do. So I'm glad I achieved it. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about like how you pushed yourself into days that you didn't feel like going, or you overthinking the trading and going through that experience, how has that helped you in your business as well?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I did actually write a newsletter about exactly this, Sid. So it's funny that you're asking this question because there are so many parallels I realized afterwards between the two things. So, um, it was with the running, it was 1 kilometers was like the furthest I was ever going to run. Like I've never run that far before. So at first, I was like, oh my God, how am I ever going to run this massive, massive distance? Um, so I realized that if every time I went out for a run, I was going to focus on 21 kilometers, I would have scared myself out of it. Like I never would have done it. So
Yeah, true.
I looked up a Mr. Nike app, and Nike have a great training plan that breaks down your training into, digestible chunks, right? So realizing that just taking it one step at a time, only focusing on the next run, and trusting that eventually it will get you there, is how I did it. And just sometimes just doing it, even if I didn't want to do it. But at the same time, understanding, I suppose, I think at one point I had a bit of an injury. So understanding that you could pivot that plan, and have a week off and still,
Yeah.
make change to make that work. And it's reinforced. It's everything that that I do and teach in business and everything that I do in my business. If I think I want to, make my corporate salary in the first year of business, and then try and scattergun a load of things to do that, that's never going to happen. But if I break that down, think about the building blocks, and then not worry about pivoting, if I need to, then that's about so many parallels, to the training for the marathon. So yeah, although I wouldn't say that training for the marathon changed my business, I would say that it probably reinforced the way I think about plan and trusting it, but not being afraid to change it.
Makes sense. And having a plan is so crucial. And also in like marathons, you're never running those 13 miles in a day when you're training. You're always like do 3 miles in a day or 4 miles. So you plan it according to that. So yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Bite-sized pieces.
Nice. And was there a moment when you felt like giving up when you were building your business, and how did you push through that?
I've had quite a few moments I felt like giving up. However, probably the hardest
Mm-hmm.
was when I just couldn't get any clients. Like
Mm,
I'd already pivoted to working with business owners.
okay.
But I was positioning myself as being able to help these business owners go from chaos to calm. So I was saying, look, I can help organization to your business, be organized. And it seemed like when I was speaking to people, everyone was like, yeah, I'm really overwhelmed. I'm really chaotic. I really want structure. So I was getting all the right signals, but nobody was buying. But yeah, we needed to make money, right? So yes, this is a passion of mine, but I also can't be an expensive hobby. Like I need to make a business out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just wasn't selling. So I just had a bit of a realization one day that it was about the way I was positioning my services. So, I decided I needed help. So I worked with a mentor and coach who's absolutely brilliant. She's called Sarah Clark. She helps, business owners. And I worked with her in her program, and she really helped me to change my marketing messaging. Because, I'm a supply chain girl. I didn't know about marketing, having to learn
Yeah.
all these things. So the way that I had been communicating it wasn't a problem that people put at the top of their list. When I was able to then reframe and go, hold on, it's not people need to be more organized. That doesn't drive anybody to purchase. It's, are you juggling too many ideas? You're feeling overwhelmed. Your things never happen. You're struggling with accountability and clarity. And really you want that suddenly doing the
Makes
same
sense.
thing, but the marketing was different. So anyway, realizing that, getting
Mm-hmm.
help. And then also probably in terms of the way I dealt with that setback or the thinking I wanted to give up, I did a bit of scenario planning. Like you're probably familiar with this in your world, thinking, right, okay, well, maybe I could get a contract job for 2 or 3 days a week and then I could carry on. And that would mean the financial side was taken care of, or, thinking about that. And then that, I think it's maybe a L'Oreal, a little phrase, test and learn. I don't know if you
Test
still
and learn. Yeah.
learn. They taught me the power of test and learn. So you don't just launch something and expect it to work first time. Try it, iterate, understand. So that mindset of, look, nothing's going to work first time. I've actually learned something here. It's not a failure. I've learned something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that thought of giving up actually forced me to change something, which meant that everything worked. So yeah, it wasn't nice though. Yeah.
Wow. And I'm so glad you pushed through it. And I want to ask you, how do you deal with rejections as well? Because you might have got a lot of rejections because some of the business owners might say, no, not interested, or just ignore. So how did you go through that as well? What mindset do you need to really build that resilience towards getting no?
Well, do you know what? I pretty quickly got to a point where I understand that it's not that I'm not good or that it's something I've done actually. It's that when you're selling a service like I am, the person has to be at the place where I am, in their journey at the place where I am offering that help. It's not that my thing is bad. It's that
Yeah.
they just don't need me right now at this moment. They might never need me, and that's okay. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not right for them. And that's similarly when I work with corporates or bigger organizations. They might not have the budget. They might not. It might not be the right time for them. It's not a reflection on me. It's just a reflection on the situation.
Very well explained. It's not attaching your self-worth to a rejection. Basically, might be deeper than, they might have other things like you explain.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think so.
And according to you, how can business owners distinguish between a high priority task and those that can be delegated or eliminated? Is there any tool or something do you recommend using, or how do you coach with that?
Yeah, so there are probably loads of different ways, but my favorite is
Yeah.
really, really simple one. I don't know if you've heard of like the impact effort matrix.
No, what's that?
Really simple concept. And it's just that, so if you think of a grid, a kind of cross axis, and we've got high impact at the top, low impact at the bottom, and then you've got low effort on one side of the horizontal and high effort on the other. So it's this idea of starting to think about what is the lowest effort for the highest impact. And that impact can be on whatever it is you want to be making the change. So it's no good working on something that is going to make you loads of money if actually your goal isn't to make money this year, but your goal is to prioritize your work-life balance. So it's lowest effort for the highest impact towards the goal you want to make. So it's always thinking about what that looks like. So if you've just got loads and loads of tasks, you can just jot them all down and start to put them on that matrix. And then we pick off the highest impact, lowest effort first, and ditch anything that's low
effort
and high effort and work on it from that. That tends to be where I would start.
Yeah, that's a takeaway that I'm going to apply to my role and try it as well. Thank you for sharing. And according to you as well, what mindset shift business owners need or leaders need who struggle with delegation or are micromanagers? So in terms of business owners, let's say if I own a company, I might be like, oh, you know what? I need to know everything what's going on. I need to do everything. So how can we really what mindset shift do we need to like really delegate and not micromanage?
Yeah. I have quite strong feelings about this one because
yes, fire away.
You know what? I would just say get over yourself. Like, if you can't delegate. So if you're not delegating as a senior leader or as a business owner, then you're the bottleneck. You're not the hero. You're the bottleneck. You're the problem, not the solution. Like, it really is a massive problem. And
yeah,
you're right. There's some mindset stuff usually behind it, if I'm being less glib about it. It's usually about control or trust, or it's about self-worth or perfectionism. They're the four things I think come into play when somebody doesn't want to delegate. So, it's like, if I hand this over, I'm going to lose control. But actually, if you hand it over, it gives you more control, because instead of being stretched really thin, you're going to focus on the stuff that really adds value, right? And then I suppose from a trust perspective, that's that. Well, no one's going to do it as well as I do. You hear that, don't you? You hear it in the corporate world a lot. But I would say if someone can do it 70% as well as you can, then it's time to let it go. Because if you've not built that team around you that can do it, there's a problem. You need to be able to build a team that can execute without you micromanaging, right?
100%.
Yeah. And then there's the other bits around perfectionism. It's faster if I do it myself, but that's short-term, very short-term thinking. And probably the one that I do actually get a lot with coaching leaders, senior directors in organizations, is self-worth. So like, if I'm not doing everything, my value. But like, how many really good leaders that you look up to are you going, oh my God, they're amazing, they do everything? Like, we're not, are we? We're measuring those people by how well they enable and they lead others, not because they never delegate.
Great point.
Yeah, but that's definitely a self-worth thing, I think. So yeah, it's a big one.
Tell me more about perfectionism. How can we get over perfectionism? Because I think that might be a thing that many entrepreneurs or let's say leaders in the corporate world might be suffering from. What's your take on that?
Well, I think it's something that I don't have the perfectionism thing. I'm probably the other way personally. So I do find it quite a difficult one to understand from a personal perspective, but I do see it quite a lot. I think if you are a perfectionist, you absolutely have to find a way to know when good enough is good enough. Because, if you're working on a project, I've had it with team members in the past, working on this project, say it's a forecasting project, okay?
Yeah.
They're working on a project. They want to make sure every single SKU is perfectly forecasted. Every single bit is done to the nth degree. They're getting all the data that, the sales team are asking for the forecast. It's not ready yet. It's not ready yet. And then it's past even being any use. The data's old by the time you've then got to the perfect answer. And it's no use to anybody. So it would have been a lot more use if 80% you could give that 80%. So I don't have any answers for how somebody can make themselves be less of a perfectionist other than practicing and challenging themselves.
And also tell me more about the self-worth bit as well. Do you think that's like the ego that comes in the way of delegating as well?
Yeah.
Or doing all the tasks?
Yeah. I think it's ego, but I also think it can be both. It can be ego and it can be lack of confidence. So if you're not fully confident in your self-worth, so if you're not thinking, I know that I'm good at my job and I'm here because I'm good at my job.
Yeah.
You're attaching your self-worth to, well, I've done that report and I'm the only one who knows how to use this system and they all have to come. If that's how you think you're valuable, then that manifests itself, I think.
I want to know more about your leadership journey and some leadership lessons that you could share. So what are some pivotal leadership lessons that you have learned during your tenure at the HUD Group and L'Oreal that you now impart to your clients?
I think we probably covered some of them actually.
Okay.
In the course of talking, but I'll bring them together. So the first one, just try it, test and learn. We've just said it earlier. Honestly, for me, I've experienced that in different ways, both at L'Oreal and the HUD Group. The way they would frame it is like, try it small, then make it bigger. Don't go all in with one new thing. Try it with one customer then expand it. Just try it, test and learn. It's honestly so key because people can get caught up in the research, right? I'm going to do this and this is a great big detailed plan and planning for this thing. And it might not even work. Don't spend the next 3 weeks planning it. Try it small tomorrow.
Makes sense.
Always ask. And this is all linked in. I could go on about this one forever, but always ask. If someone's talking to you about an idea and they're saying, and it'll be ready in 4 weeks. Always, okay, but what could we do tomorrow? If I asked you, what could we do to get this live tomorrow? What part could you get live tomorrow? That is 100 times more effective than having some perfect plan for 4 weeks. So that test and learn is big for me. Another one is, I've probably got 3 sayings that I say all the time to my clients. So these are the 3 things I'm going to tell you about. 1, you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Love that one.
I love it. It's just like, honestly, you can do anything, but right now you can't do everything. So that nods to prioritization, thinking about important things, etc. The other one is done is better than perfect, which links to your questions about perfectionism. Done is better than perfect. Absolutely. Always. For all the reasons we spoke about. And the last one, which is a bit different, is we are not robots, so we shouldn't expect ourselves to behave like robots. I think, it's a lot about consistency. Let's get up at 5 a.m. and drink a green juice and stand on our heads and go for a run. And come on, we're not robots. Don't tell me you got up at 5 a.m. this morning.
No, I didn't. No.
I think that idea that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be all these things, remember all these things, be perfect, be consistent. Do you know what? We are people and we have rhythms and flows and ebbs like any living thing. So I think going easy on ourselves and setting that expectation, everything all ends up a lot better.
Yeah, I love the answer. Great answer, Litsa. And I think social media's glorified this. Get up at 5 a.m., sorry, journaling, do this and that, then go for a run.
Yeah.
No one probably does that consistently.
No, absolutely not. There's a whole, I mean, God, we could do a whole podcast just on this, couldn't we? But in my area of particularly female entrepreneurs as well, there's a lot about, step into your CEO era, do that. And just for me, if we talk about authenticity, that couldn't be further away from where I certainly want to be and the people that I work with in that environment.
Yeah,
Come on, that's not real life. Yeah.
nice. And with the test and learn concept, do you apply that in your business as well, right? So for example, if you want to try something new, you test it, and if you see if it works, and then you grow it. Can you maybe share an example of how you have used test and learn in your own business?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose on a big frame, when I first started the business, I was a bit lonely working from home. And so I decided to set up a free co-working for business owners in my area. I was like, oh, it'll be cool. Just get out, get some ideas, chat to people, get out of the house. So I ended up running this co-working group for 2 years. Started off free. Then I realized that I was facilitating a lot of it, a lot of admin. I was helping on the day people, answer questions and stuff. So I ended up making it a very sort of low cost service.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't make money particularly, but it was a paid subscription. Did that for 2 years. Then it was working well. And then I realized that actually I didn't have time to do this every single week anymore because my business had grown, but there was real need for what I was offering. So now that has become Focus with Litsa Days, which is a service in itself where all day in a cool environment where I help people work in focus sprints, but also give a little business lesson, and I'm there to help them. So it's evolved, and that's test and learn in absolute. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, wow, so cool. I love that one. Nice. And what strategies do you recommend for fostering collaboration or a positive team culture within a corporate environment?
So this is so important. I think certainly in my last role, I felt, I don't know whether you'll reiterate this, Sid, but I felt like my team was one that people wanted to work in. I had people coming from other teams, and that's because what you've just asked, I think is really important. So there's a few things, I guess. So I would say always, always, always get your team together at least once a week. And when you're doing that, don't just talk straight into what's everyone working on. It's share something good. Every single person should share something good about their week before, a personal thing and a business thing. Like,
Wow.
honestly, it's quite game changing to have people come into that meeting and say every single person, obviously not compulsory, some people might not feel comfortable, but mostly they were, share something good about last week. And it's incredible how that fosters positive team culture. So I would say doing something like that. The other things I would say are spend time with other functions to understand their motivations, their pressures, and make sure they understand your team's motivations and pressures. Because there can be a lot of, that team did this, or that team, they're always desperate. But honestly, we're all trying to do our best, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So that for me is really key. Two other things. I would say make sure that everyone understands the concept of the circle of influence. Have you come across the concept?
No, what's that?
So it's this idea that if you imagine 3 concentric circles, okay, the central circle, and that circle is everything that's in your control. So your control is like your behaviors, your reaction, your habits. That's what's in your control. Then in the next circle, it's your circle of influence. That is everything that you can influence by doing things. So it could be in your work, it could be somebody getting a report to you because you can speak to them, you can influence the process, etc. It's not in your control, but it's in your influence. Mm-hmm. Then there is the final circle, which is the circle of concern. And that is everything that you can do nothing about. So it's the weather. It's whether your big business is going to have a share price that increases on the FTSE 100. It's everything you've got no control over. Okay. Mm-hmm. And if people in your team are focused on that circle of concern, they are frustrated, they are bitter, they are annoyed, they get distracted, and it really does not foster a positive culture. So people understanding that and focusing their energy on the circle of control and influence is massive, I would say. And the last one, just because I really like this one, is to understand that everyone in the team brings something unique and one is not better than the other. It's the sum of the parts. It sounds a bit cheesy, but I had people who were massively technical in a team and I had people who were brilliant at managing customer expectations. One was not better than the other. They just both bring something unique.
Nice. Another good takeaway from me. Thank you, Litsa. And let's deep dive into your values as well. So how can someone lead with authenticity? Can you maybe share a practical example and why it's so important to lead with authenticity these days?
So, yeah, I did talk a little bit, didn't I? But not fully. So I guess without sounding all woo-woo, like I said, authentic leadership really is about finding a way that aligns with who you are, right? And a culture where other people feel the same. Because if you don't behave in a way that you believe in, then no one's going to trust you. So I guess thinking about examples in a corporate environment, it's really around, the leader who's trying to be like their boss. They're never going to achieve that because they are not their boss. They're somebody different. And the idea that somebody is a good manager because of a certain way of behaving is not true. They're a good manager because they're leading into what they are good at. So I think that idea of, self-awareness, understanding, really building true relationships with people. Mm-hmm. Always thinking about we, not me.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Don't you think, like with a team, never come in and say, right team, this is the strategy that we're going to employ and this is how we're going to do it. Okay, let's go. Like, who wants that? Build that with your team. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? We, not me. And then building that vision. So having those relationships means that when you bring them in, they're there with you to build that vision and that strategy, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, great answer. And let's say if I want to start being a more authentic leader from today, so what first step, or anyone, what's the first step they could take according to you, like first small step to go through that, to reach that?
So the first step has always got to be to make sure you know what your values are and what your strengths are. So they are two pieces of work to do. You can find it online anywhere. There'll be self-assessments. If you don't know what are your values and what are your strengths? Because until you know that, you are going to always have friction. So like, for example, if one of your core values is, I don't know, collaboration, something, and you are in a team where everything is done one-to-one and you nothing's going to work right as a leader because you know that it's not feeling right. It's not working right. Collaboration, get everyone together. It's an example. So the first step is always to understand those values, then to think, well, what is feeling not great in my leadership right now, and 9 times out of 10, it's not working because it clashes up against your values. So yeah, that would be where I would start.
Nice one. Love that answer. And I have an interesting question for you, Litsa, now. So if you could go back to being a first-time manager, how would you approach it differently?
Oh gosh, I can't remember when I was a first time manager. It was a long time ago. I guess some of the things would be around the lessons that we've already talked about, but the one that does spring to mind is to prove, like, I was probably just trying to prove myself at the time. So to do less showing off, less, I'm such a great manager. So I wasn't saying that, but, I was trying to prove that I was good and competent and how great am I, but actually that does not make a great manager at all. What makes a great manager is learning from and empowering and lifting up your team, right? But the way, I think it's quite rare that a new manager has the confidence and the sight to do that, if I'm honest, but go back, I was doing all that stuff like holding on rather than delegating. Probably I would have thought I wanted to be the expert in everything. Tried to show that I was the expert in everything. So I guess what I would do differently is like focus less on being the one with all the answers, and then probably more on helping my team find the answers themselves and not worry about not knowing. So yeah, more listening, less assuming, probably.
That's a huge one as well.
Yeah. Maybe some stuff around boundaries as well, like setting clearer expectations. I think, as a manager first time, you sort of want to get on with your team, don't you? And be, they're a really great boss and I'm really nice. And I think them being disappointed when things aren't delivered as you would have wanted them to, but never having told anybody how you actually wanted it or when you wanted it in the first place. So probably that's just basics, right? No one ever taught me how to be a manager. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Those kinds of things.
Amazing. Thank you, Litsa. Actually, I have another question that I'm going to start asking every guest of mine. So that is, what interpersonal skill stands out in the most successful people you have met?
I would say if this is a skill, the ability to make everybody feel like they are really important and feel comfortable, like making everyone feel comfortable and making them feel important. I think.
Wow.
Do you not think if somebody
100%.
like that's a good place to start.
That's another huge key takeaway from me. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lita. That's an amazing answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you to all our listeners for joining on this show, and I'll link Litsa's all social media handles in the show notes so you can follow her. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, so make sure you comment below what's your biggest key takeaway from this episode. So thank you so much everyone for listening again. Thank you so much, Litsa. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show and so many amazing key takeaways. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.